Hi, my name is Madison Rye. I'm here today to talk to you about Active Workspace. So we have quite a few people online, and what I'm going to do is just throughout the presentation going to keep them muted until the end. And then if you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can type it in and we'll answer questions at the end. So I also have Kurt Pennington online with me. He is from Siemens PLM and is going to do a demonstration, a live demonstration for you of Active Workspace. So today what I'd like to talk to you about is, first of all, just go over who Siemens is and Ally is, and then talk about the big picture, the digital enterprise, and then enterprise PLM in specific, and then we'll get to the Active Workspace demonstration. So I'm sure that you've heard of Siemens. It's a worldwide company. Siemens PLM is the digital factory business unit of Siemens. Siemens is headquartered in Plano, Texas. Well, the PLM division is headquartered in Plano, Texas, with a workforce of over 15,000 people in 165 locations in 28 countries. Siemens PLM supports over 15 million licenses of its own software that are in use all around the world. So here are some of the logos of the companies that use the software in every division of industry. These are the larger companies, but equally important are the thousands of smaller companies that use this software. Siemens listens to all their customers, and I was able to get development to make a change for a customer that had one license of software because it made sense to make this change. So they really do listen to everyone, all of their customers. So just like you don't take your Ford up to a distributor or up to the factory in Ford to have it worked on in Michigan, you go to a distributor that's local to you. Ally PLM Solutions is a distributor for Siemens. Ally PLM has been in business for 35 years, actually over 35 years, and has a customer service or satisfaction index of 4.8 out of 5. And that's because everybody gets a feedback form when they do tech support or take a training class, so that we can tell what their satisfaction level is. There's a 98% customer renewal rate, and the bread and butter of Ally PLM is support. If you work with us, you understand that we're staffed from 3 to 1, so we have 3 technical resources to 1 salesperson. And you can see, and I think Gene is on here today, we're using one of his quotes saying from L3 that he's worked with a lot of different people, and that Ally is by far the best relationship that he's seen. Ally PLM has a dedicated frontline help desk. There's a callback that we do within an hour if it rolls to voicemail, or if you send in a support request via email. There's a 98% compliance on this, and I monitor that. And from what I've seen, it's always because somebody emails somebody that's an engineer directly that's in training, and not the support email is when that we're out of compliance on that. So it's a very small percentage. There's also the GTech help desk you can call. So that's very unique for this company, that you can call the factory or the distributor. We offer lunch and learn seminars, webinar presentations, and lunch bites. If you've seen the lunch bites on the website, they're used around the world, literally. We have training that's based in Cincinnati, or you can do it at your facility. We have online training now that's been fast. We've gotten great feedback on, where you have a bunch of people that are in a training class, and then you have virtual students as well. And there's mics and speakers around the room so that they can participate as if they were sitting in the class. Basic training all the way up to advanced training. So just to talk about the digital enterprise drivers, we all face challenges in this environment. Everyone wants things better, faster, cheaper. Digitalization can help face all these challenges. So a digital enterprise is an organization that uses technology as a competitive advantage in its internal and external operations. So everyone's driving to that better, faster, cheaper. You can reduce the time to market and enhance flexibility with items like that we've seen, like custom knee replacements built using a scan of your bones, or increasing efficiency. So Siemens uses 5% of the revenue specifically for R&D. In the past, there was local automation, and now we have the Internet of Things that's allowing everything to connect. Siemens is using R&D to drive manufacturing in the future like with automated design and on-demand 3D printing and cyber-physical systems like autonomous vehicles. We believe there's 4 key requirements that are critical for manufacturers to successfully realize this vision of the digital enterprise. The first is delivering a simple yet compelling environment that meets the unique needs of each member of the product's value chain. The second is building highly intelligent digital models that accurately reflect the real-world products and the manufacturing environment. The third is seamlessly connecting the digital and physical worlds of the product and production. And the fourth is to deliver a foundation that can evolve with new applications, technologies, and delivery models, so you get that ROI. You get ensure that you get that ROI. Siemens is the only company that has the focus and the breadth of capabilities to meet the broad requirements for this digitalization. So this includes the product lifecycle management that we're going to talk about today, manufacturing operations management, and then integrated production and automation. And all of this is on a common backbone. So today we're going to talk about active workspace, which is part of product lifecycle management. So we call this cradle to grave, from the very beginning concept of your design through analysis, prototyping, testing, manufacturing, all the way to the end when your product is obsolete. And you need something there's a lot of data that's generated during this time, and you need something to manage that data, and Siemens offers Teamcenter for that. So this is what the innovation curve looks like. When you have a product, you sink money and time into the product until it's launched, and then you can start to make money. And then you get to a point where you break even, and you have the peak of when you can, you stop making money, you kind of decline until that product's obsolete. If you can reduce your cost or speed your time to market, as you probably already know, you can increase your revenue and you can extend your returns. But if you can boost productivity, you can even further increase your revenue and extend those returns. Some of the companies that we've seen do this are here. One of them is Samsung Electronics, and they have used fewer physical prototypes because they've taken advantage of our CAE tools, our new Sim Center. And then we have they've also had 50% fewer errors and reduced their cost and accelerated development time by 30%. So what you want to do with all of that information that's generated is you want to be able to find it fast. You want to trust that it's the correct information. You want to understand exactly what that piece of data or information is. You want to understand the context, meaning what things does that piece of data affect upstream and downstream, such as work instructions if it's CAD data, you're changing, or tooling. And then you want to know what processes you need to follow, when and what to do with this particular piece of data. And then you want to make it available securely only to those people that actually need it. So as I stated, Teamcenter is the most used product in the world for PLM. And there's a foundational piece, which is that data security, workflows, processes, and document management. So you lay the foundation, and then for every other department or every department of your company, there are solutions, such as, most people start with CAD management in the design area. And then let's say sales and marketing, they want to do engineer to order or requirements management. Or you have tech pubs, and they think it would be very beneficial to have some updated document or updated CAD data once the design changes, and that would update their documentation automatically when they see the update come through. Or manufacturing or service or the supply chain, etc. Quality, first article inspection, or they want to do FMEAs, and so forth. So there are pieces for every part of the company. If we look at it in a different way, we can organize this by starting with CAD data management here and extending to other organizations like manufacturing here. And then maybe we want to take a look at our carbon footprint and transform our company by looking at the carbon footprint for environmental compliance, maybe our materials that we're using or whatnot. So this is a very wide range of things. You can see that we cover every one of the requirements through the product life cycle. However, you have to start somewhere. And I talked about that foundational piece. This is where we want to start with foundational PDM. You have the CAD data management, you have an engineering release, document management, Word, documents, Excel, whatever else goes along with that engineering data, and visual collaboration for those that aren't CAD users, that they can see the CAD data or other data that's stored inside a Team Center, and then the security piece, and maybe you need BOM management right out of the gate too. So you pick what you need for that foundational piece, and then as your business requirements change or as you grow or as you need to, you bolt on exactly what else you need, and only those things that you need for your specific business needs. So just wanted to lay that groundwork for you so that you could understand exactly where this fits in the overall digital enterprise. We're here today to talk about Active Workspace. And Active Workspace is another interface to Team Center. There's the Rich Access Client, which people call the RAC, and it works a lot like Outlook. There's a piece on your server that it houses your engineering data, just like an Outlook that houses all your emails, and then you have a piece on your client, like you would open Outlook on your client, and it would pull the data from the server. Same way with with the Rich Access Client. You have that footprint on your desktop, the Rich Access Client, just like you have the Outlook application on your client. Now, Active Workspace is different, and IT loves it because there is no footprint on your client. It's strictly through the web. Now, it does require a visualization server, so that because you're not using any of the graphics from your computer, so that graphics rendering is done on a separate server with a graphics card for a server. But it's great because you can access it from anywhere, and you don't have to have a specific application on the client machine. And the fact that it is extremely easy to use, which is what Kurt is going to show you right now. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn things over to Kurt as the presenter here.
Thanks, Madison.
Sure, I'm just going to make you the presenter here. Just one second, Kurt.
Okay.
Allison, if you could make the Kurt the presenter, please, because I don't have the capability to do that on my screen today.
All right, Kurt, you should have control.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Madison. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit about Active Workspace. So you should be able to see my screen. I actually have Google Chrome up at this time, and I already have a link saved. So if I jump out to that link, it takes me to basically the Active Workspace login screen. So what I'm doing is I'm accessing the Team Center database, but like Madison said, I'm just using a web app to do that, or a web viewer, Internet Explorer, Firefox, Google Chrome. That's still going to require me to log in, so it's still going to need my credentials to log into the application. Now, this could be done on a tablet, workstation, laptop. I could be doing this from an iPhone or an Android device, or any device that supports HTML5. So a mobile device that supports that would allow me to access Active Workspace. The benefit of that is if I'm out on the factory floor, I need to interact with Team Center. Maybe I'm out in the field, but I do have internet access or so on. I can still get to that database. So this is kind of just the basic layout. As you can see, it's very Windows 8, very Windows 10-like. So if I do have a touch device, it works very well with that. You'll notice that if I want to reorganize my display, I can do that just by kind of dragging and dropping the icons around. I also have the ability to make things larger and resize them. So it's very configurable from the user standpoint because everybody likes their method of looking at something and working. You know, so it's very nice configuration. I can also change the background color and so on, and you know, maybe do a black background versus a white. But really the power here is the functionality that I have into Team Center. So I'm just going to start with a basic wildcard search. You can see here that I can say, you know what, let's do just a wildcard here, and then I'll do a search on that. So from here, immediately I get search results by type, and you'll notice that it sorted those for me by item revision, NC machining, weld points, Excel templates, you know, and so on. And it's telling me how many of those item types. Now, if I say, well, I'm really interested in an item revision type, if I select on that, it sorts even further. So now we're sorting by owners. So my engineer, my CAD guy, my checker. I can say, let's look at the engineer's items, and it's telling me, well, he has 60 that are in a release status of 60. So in my environment, that means that those items are released to production, where these items are maybe still work in progress, or the engineer in this case is maybe just behind his task, way behind. He's got a lot of unassigned items. Now, if I ever want to go back, you'll notice here on the toolbar, I can easily click back, and now we're searching again by type, but we're still searching by the engineer. So now we're looking at different types of items. So item revisions, PDFs. If I want to focus in on PDFs, now I can really dive into that and see, again, different statuses. All this is configurable. This is just my setup that we're currently looking at. So if I identify an item that I want to look at, I can come over here and choose to really focus in on that. Now, in this case, it's a PDF, so I do have the rights to download that. Now, those rights may be non-existent if I don't want my users downloading documents. Maybe I just want them to have viewing capability. So by selecting that, you know, it gives me a little bit more detail about that particular item, and I can say, well, let's bring it up in the viewer. So again, within Active Workspace, I have viewing capability. I can view 3D models, I can view PDFs, I can view, you know, various document types. And with that, I can also do markups. So if I needed to come in here and start creating, you know, maybe some markups or comments, again, I have the ability to kind of do some highlighting of text, or maybe I just want to create a markup here and add a note to it and identify that, you know, there's an issue with this particular item. Please, you know, put in some note to please verify size or whatever that may be, and I can add comments or notes to that particular object. So it's very powerful in that respect. Anybody that would then come back in and look at this could then see the notes that are identified. You'll also notice as I come out here and just pause the cursor now on that marked up area, it kind of gives me a quick summary of what that is as well. So some very nice functionality. So I'm just going to jump back here to the front screen and do another wildcard search because I want to show you some additional functionality based on filtering. So if I pull up the filter options, you can see that it is now looking at the entire database. And it's saying, look, you have all these different types of documents or items inside the database. And you can see everything from PowerPoint, Word files, text files, and so on. So again, it gives me very quick filtering functionality. I can also go by user, so I can begin to look at the different users, the different groups. Think of it from possibly a manager status point. I want to go in and say, you know what, I'm only interested in items that have been released. And I need to quickly review anything that's been in a release state, and I can choose that, and now it's filtering to that, and you can see I've got different types, and then I say, well, I only want to see what the checker has released. And very quickly, I can get to that individual item, and again, bring it up in the viewer, possibly look at audit logs, and so on. I can always back out, so basically just unchecking what I checked is kind of bringing me back to the top level again. Now, you'll notice I can also do it by dates. I can really do it by year, you know, a more wider swath of search. Again, by the last modifying user, last modified date. lots of different things. Now, if I work in a project-based environment, maybe I have particular items that are assigned to projects, and I can very quickly filter into that particular project. So there's lots of functionality here that gives me a wide, array of searching and finding my information, because we do spend a lot of time looking for information. This makes it very easy. Again, I could do the same thing in Team Center, but this interface is very intuitive. It's much quicker to do my searches in this type of interface. The other benefit here in this particular instance is I have some parts that have been classified. So classification is somewhat unique. If I set that up, I can say I want to look at my bearing classification, and as you can see, I only have 4 bearings in this example, but because they're bearings and whoever created the bearings created certain or specific attributes to that bearing. So I have loads, I have rated speeds, customer names. So you can see the opportunity for you and yourself and your organization to really configure, your Team Center environment, your active workspace to really work to your business needs. So if I have things that I'm constantly looking for, but I really want to segregate or narrow in those items, I can do that very quickly. Now, search is much more powerful than that. So if I were looking for something and I knew it had a particular load that I was looking for, I could always come in and say, you know what, I'm looking for an item that supports a load of, say, 1,500 kilograms. Immediately, it goes out and it narrows in on that item. Now, in my particular example, I only have 1 bearing that meets that criteria. But think of it from the aspect, if you were a bearing company, you may have 100 bearings that meet that criteria. But then you could say, you know what, I need a bearing that supports that load, but it supports a particular ID or OD or environmental condition. If I wish to come in here and say, you know what, I want to take a little bit more deeper dive at it, we can, open it basically. And what I'm looking at is a bearing as an assembly. And in this case, we're just looking at that bill of material for this particular bearing. Now, that's pretty boring, so let's go out and look at something that's maybe a little more interesting. So let's say, for example, I just want to look for a particular larger assembly, and then I want to look at that bill of material. So now we can see a bill of material related to a motorcycle. We can see that there's more sub-assemblies related to that. So we can really get into the bill of material. We can also edit the bill of material. So maybe in this case, the bill of material is not released. I still have access to edit that bill of material, and that's part of my rights. I could come in here and say, you know what, I want to start editing the particular field. So you can see how it kind of opened up, and maybe I need to start, adding additional information, fast frame, and so on. And then I can come back and say, save those. And it will save it back into Team Center. So it's a much more user-friendly way to interact and add additional attribute information if all that information doesn't exist already. So let me show you some additional functionality. So I just want to quickly search on another item here. Let's go ahead and add it to our front page. Typically, we have things that are important to us, right? Maybe there's items that I want to that I work with daily, or I need to get access to very quickly. So in this case, I've identified a part. It gives me information. It's a revision B, when it was released, who's been involved with that part. But maybe this is something that I want to say, you know what, let's pin this to the home, or let's make this a favorites. So now if I go back to my home tab, you'll see there's that item. Now I picked a CAD item. It could have been a PDF document, maybe a customer requirement that I'm working throughout the day, or basically any piece of information. But now that it exists there, I get immediate access to it. I also added it to my favorites, so I also have it there because maybe I don't want it on the desktop, but I want to create a list of favorites and so on. One other important aspect of Team Center is that, when we work with Team Center, we're typically working with workflows and processes. And Team Center is very good at, within those workflows, as it goes through a workflow, it's creating my task, my daily task. I'm responsible for certain work in the group, if that's put into a workflow and I'm a responsible individual, I get a notification. My notification could come through Outlook. In this case, it could also come right to me from inside of Active Workspace. So you'll notice I have 3 new items. I have 3 total. I haven't looked at anything. Based on the schedule of those items, I'm not overdue on anything, so that's a good thing. But you'll notice here I've got some engineering orders in process. Maybe I don't even know what these are. They showed up in my inbox, so I need to interrogate them. So from there, I can go in and say, you know what, here's my engineering order. There's been no decision on my part made on it yet. You know, there could be more information there, but I want to do a little bit deeper dive into it, so I can choose to open that particular engineering order. So what it's delivering to me is, you know, here's a problem. We need to fix this part which affects an assembly. There's the markup. I can dive into the engineering order, and what that does for me, it tells me which parts are affected. So I've got an obsolete part. I've got some reference data, you know, an assembly. So if I need to look at any of that, of course, I can open it, take a deeper dive into that particular item. I also have possible change notice or change request attached with it. So if I choose the change request, you can kind of see some information here. Active Workspace is very good at giving you different ways of viewing that data. So I can say, give it to me in a list format, a table format. Maybe I want that compare, which kind of gives that list in a vertical, or that information in a vertical format. Or I could even say, you know, just show me an image. Now, of course, this one's not a very pretty image, but that is one way of viewing it. If I click on it, here's the details about it. So it's basically saying, we need to modify this part. It's a high priority. You know, whoever created this added in the relevant, important information. Let's go back here and say, well, you know, maybe I want to see if there's any attachments attached to this. So as you can see, I've got a Word document that's associated to this. There's the markup that we were really looking at earlier. And there is also a PDF. Well, if I want to interrogate that, I can choose that and choose to open it as well, or download the file as I just did. In this case, I'm going to choose to open it and pull it up in the viewer. And as you can see, it's something as simple as a scanned image. So like I said, the viewer is very capable. It's just a scanned image saved as a PDF, but I can view lots of different document types and so on. So maybe somebody created a change request from the factory floor. They added in some relevant information, and I can go look at it. We also have history. So if there has been anything that's happened here right currently, the engineer looks like he's the only one that's dealt with this. But I can also see if it's involved in a workflow of some type and go in there and interrogate the workflow. So somebody created this engineering request on this particular date and time, and then I can really take a look at the workflow and see how far we are into the process. So it started here, they created it, they assigned a team, and they're just basically waiting for somebody to approve it to go to the next step. Now, if you think about it, I could do get all my information delivered to my desktop, review it, and if it looks good, then I can say, you know what, let's approve that, and I can say, make required changes, and send that on its way. And now you can see that history of what's going on with it has expanded. And if we look at the workflow now, it's past this create, and now it's in the engineering change process. So I always have the ability to see what's going on. I can also identify who it got assigned to. So I know it went to the CAD person in this case to do the work. So just kind of a brief intro into Active Workspace. As you can see, I have the ability to run different reports. I have the ability to create new items, interact with schedules. I also have my home folder, which would be a duplicate or a replicate of what I see in Team Center. This interface, like I said, is very intuitive. It allows me to work with the Team Center database just in a more user-intuitive, friendly environment, in a sense. This is very good for people that may not be getting into Team Center all the time. So if I have purchasing individuals involved or managers, or just people that are more mobile that need access and need to be able to interact, they have that ability. Now you can see that once I went into the inbox and accessed that one item, I basically made myself aware of that one item, so my count went down to 2 because I interacted with the one new item, and then I sent it on its way. So it's really not in my inbox anymore. Now it's in the CAD designer's inbox. So with that, I think I'm finished, Madison, and I'll hand it back to you.
Great, thank you so much, Kit, or Kurt. Sorry. I appreciate you doing that excellent demonstration for us. I just want to wrap it up by saying, you know, I went over the big picture for you, the digital enterprise, the PLM specific, and then how you get started with Team Center. And then if you're already involved with Team Center, you know, the very first thing people want to add on is Active Workspace, because it, as you can see, it's an extremely easy to use interface, very intuitive and quick, and IT likes it because there's no footprint on the machine, so there are a lot of benefits to using it. And its Google-like appearance, I think, makes people comfortable. So I know I answered a question, one of the questions already. Are there any other questions that people have? You can raise your hand, or you can type in the questions box that's on your GoToWebinar interface. If you use the little arrow next to the questions, you can drop that down and then type in that box and ask a question, and I'll just keep an eye here and see if anybody raises their hand, wants to ask a question, or if there are any more questions that come in. I'll give you a minute here, and then if there's not, then we'll just wrap it up. And you can always email Ally PLM. You can always call as well. If their website is allyplm.com, so all the information is there that you need to have. Looks like Ryan has a question here, so I'm going to open his. I'm going to unmute him here. Ryan Gudorf, can you hear me? Ryan, are you there? Look like you.
I'm here, Madison. Sorry, I didn't have my headset on. I was just listening through speakers.
Oh, no problem. It looks like you put a little question mark in there. I wondered if you had a question.
Yeah, I typed it in. So my big question was, as far as the hardware required for the Active Workspace server, does it need to be a standalone machine, or can it be a virtual machine?
For the visualization server,
it can visualization.
Yeah. It just needs to have a GPU, a graphics card for a server. So it can be a virtual machine as long as you get assign a GPU to it.
Okay.
Because that's because it has to do the CAD rendering on the server to deliver it to the machine instead of doing it on the machine.
Gotcha. I'd have to investigate whether or not I can put a GPU in my current system. Okay.
Okay.
That was my big question. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to mute you again. Thanks. There was another question by Chris Waltz that said, can you subscribe to multiple resource pools simultaneously? And I guess Kurt, do you have any idea there? Because I think what he's meaning is that there are multiple Team Center databases and that he wants to access. Is that?
Yeah, that's possible. So I went to basically an HTTP address, right? So you would just point, you may create shortcuts to those addresses just so you can go to the various servers if that's what you're asking. But at the same time, if you're asking about resource pools on the server side to kind of break up the work that's being done, that can be done as well. Because if you have more resource pools, you're basically pulling some of the load off one server and kind of splitting it between multiple servers. So I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about as well, but that can be done.
Chris is saying inboxes here. Workflow resource pools inboxes.
Oh, so, well,
Hey,
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
hold on, let
Maybe
me
you do.
let me unmute him. I'm going to unmute you now, Chris. Chris, you're unmuted. Can you explain a little more what you're talking about?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, we have workflows where that go to instead of going to an individual like a particular person, they go to a resource pool, and then you subscribe to those resource pools, and multiple people can be looking at that resource pool and pull tasks from that, or actually work on the task there.
Yeah, I've got you. I think that should be fine because that's a functionality in Team Center now, right? And it's just going to go to those individual inbox, though it may go to 5 people's inbox. Whoever grabs it first then owns it in a sense. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I think that's doable as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Chris, I'm going to mute you again. Thank you, Chris Waltz from Kimball. Anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to have answered? Okay, if there's no other questions, I thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Kurt, for your presentation. I appreciate that. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email myself, madison.ride@liplm or .com, or Amy Phipps at amy.phipps@liplm.com. And we'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Thanks, Theo.